Welcome back everyone. Something different today. This beautiful Dolan bike, great as it looks, does have issues. It's been in a flood. So it is in for a service, however, while it was hanging on the stand I did notice something still dripping out of the bottom bracket even though this flood was some time ago. So the service really is going to consist of stripping out the bottom bracket, chain set, and inspecting the wheel bearings front and back. Firstly I'm just going to loosen this bolt that holds the Ultra Torque cranks on Campagnolo, and then we can get back in the stand, remove the clip, and then finish undoing them. Put some pressure on this pedal, and there we go. I'm not taking it all the way out now, I'm just loosening it while it's on the floor. First thing we need to do is remove this clip that's here. This unhooks and then peels itself off and unhooks on the other side. I'm just going to pull it off the bottom because there's a bit more access. So if my torch is in the light, there we go. And that should just pop out of the front, the one on the top. There we go. A bit fiddly they are. I'll just remove this crank now, that clips off. So the Ultra Torque is a very unique system, really unique to Campagnolo, where the cranks join in the middle. It's a good design, I quite like it, just a fiddly little clip to get off. But that's that out. There should be a wavy washer in here somewhere. Yep, keep that, don't lose that washer. Pull this chain and the crank should just come straight off now. This should just pull out now. Oh, gee, that's tight. So this is obviously proving far more challenging. That should just pull straight out now. I think what's happened is the bearing is seized into the bearing cup in the frame. So I'm going to give it some penetrating oil. I hope that frees up. A bit tricky on this to use heat or anything, because obviously it's carbon fibre crank. So I'm going to give that a few minutes now just to try and do its stuff and see if we can get it out again. I'm going to use this plastic drift to see if we can drift it off slightly. This is made by BSC Tools. It's designed for Shimano, but it's going to help in this situation. Okay, let's give that a tap now. There we go. So that's out now. So yeah, it's looking pretty grim down here. So I think we'll be changing these bearings anyway as a matter of course. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull these press fit cups out of the frame because there's a bit of a cage in here. You can't really see what's going on behind there without taking this out of the frame itself. So let's pull these. So I'm going to use the BSC pulling tool here. So there's a 46mm adapter that goes onto this to cover the frame cup. This bit hooks behind the bearing cups and then we pull it. So the bearings themselves on these Campags live on the crank, so there's no bearings actually left in the frame now. So the seal in here, you pull that out first, and then this should sit just behind the cup. And then just screw it on. This is nylon cup, so it just sits against the frame. And once that stops there, we just unscrew the handle. And it should just pull the cup out. Something's moving. There we go. So that's half of the bottom bracket come out there. And there's one more cup on the other side, which will just repeat. The BSC pull is really nice. For press fit bottom brackets, it's the only thing you could guarantee every time, really. There are obviously many alternatives out there, but I love this one. There we go, that's the other cup out of the frame. This is a seal I was talking about, it just sits in a little groove inside here. So now we've got that out, we can see there is still some, not much, but there is a drop of water still out, more like oil than water, but something that certainly shouldn't be in there. So we'll clean all this up. So we'll use the cable that runs underneath the bottom bracket shell. Plenty of grease. So yeah, it's just pretty soggy in there and pretty nasty. We'll get that all cleaned up. We'll change the bearings on the cranks, and then we'll also inspect the bearings in the Mavic wheels. I'm just going to try and clean out the most of it. Then I'm going to use compressed air to just blow the rest out the other side. I think the customer did make a good effort to dry it. They took off as many easy bits as they can and left it in a warm place for a while, but they did say when they first started using it again, this was seized solid and then freed itself up, which obviously indicates why that bearing was sort of seized into its cup while we couldn't get it out of the frame. And also something was leaking onto my floor. I'll show you a picture. So compressed air is just going to be the best way to get rid of all this, really, just blow it through. So there is a small plate on the frame here, so I'm going to take this out, That should give good access to blow more compressed air down towards the bottom bracket. Don't see many Dolans around here. It's a beautiful bike, very, very nice. Don't see much Campagnolo. Again, we've got access now to go into the frame. I think I didn't get anywhere near the headset, fortunately. I think the sort of flood level was just above the chain set, and the headset does feel great. Fully integrated cables in this one, so that's a big job should that need to come out. Okay, so I'll just blow this through now. Looks pretty good down there, I can't see anything. So that's nice and clean. All you see in there is just an oily residue from my rags, really, to be fair. Like I say, I'll leave it overnight, just see if anything. Very high quality carbon fibre frame in here. You can see the moulding lines, absolutely perfect. Certainly get what you pay for. To remove the bearings, you need a little puller kit. Part Tool make a really nice one, which I use. First of all, on the drive side, there's a little clip that you need to remove. Just pop this little clip out. Just walk it around. Slide that up. And then we need the puller on here. So this is just basically a very small twin leg puller. Just drop that over, wind it down until the legs are behind the bearing. And then just wind it off with a 8mm Allen key. And that's it, that's off. Dead easy. So the left hand crank is similar, but there's no clip on this one. Just make sure you don't squash this seal that's here. Pretty tight that one was. That's both bearings off. I'm pretty sure I've got some of these bearings in stock. 6803N Campag. There we go. Yeah, there's a pair there. That's the last ones. I'm just going to put the new bearings on now. Just a bit of grease on here. So it's finish line grease. And the other part of the tool is basically a drift that goes over there, and then we just tap it on. I'm just going to hold it in my hand. I don't want to hit it like that. And it just goes on quite easily. And that's it. As soon as you hear that click, that's done. That's bottomed out. Done. Just refit this little clip. And here, you can hear it click in when it's home. So that's that side done. New bearing. I'm just going to tap it home. That one. This needs a bit more of a tap. It was much harder to get off as well. Again, you hear the tone change when it's home. That's in. Okay, so both bottom bracket bearings replaced now. So we'll leave that shell open overnight just to see if anything finds its way down there, but it's looking pretty clean now. Okay, so moving on to these wheels. First thing I'm going to do is change this valve core because it's pretty sticky. On tubeless tyres, you just buy a big bag of these for, again, a couple of pence on AliExpress and just change them as part of your regular maintenance. And people say you can put oil and stuff on these, but honestly they're literally a couple of pence. Just change them over. It's all perished in there. Just put a new core on it. All tubeless valves you can replace this core and they're all the same, as far as I know. That's it. Just going to put some air in this, otherwise the sealant's going to come out everywhere. So we're going to inspect the bearings. So first thing you need to do obviously is take the rotor off. Campagnolo rotor as well, very nice quality. So with this hub, the easiest way is just to put a screwdriver in there and twist it ever so gently. And that gives you enough slack to pull this end cap off. Lock ring, there you go. And there's two little slots you need to put a screwdriver in just to lever this plastic cover off. And that's off. And then there's a circlip there that we need to remove. Just remove that circlip carefully, don't lose it. A little washer there. Just keep all this together. So with all that off, you can feel these bearings, there's absolutely nothing in there. There's no gritties, there's no play at all. So I think we're just going to leave these as they are. There's no point just changing them for changing's sake. They are Japanese NSK bearings, so they are very high quality. And they seem to have survived a mini flood, so well done NSK. So just reassemble that washer goes on, and the circlip. Make sure that clips home, and the dust cover. Again, clip that home, this last cap. Done. So just refit the rotor. Moving on to the rear wheels, Campagnolo cassette obviously. These do sound a little bit rough. Again, remove the lock ring for the brakes. There you go. It's a smaller rotor on the back, bigger one on the front. That's the way you're supposed to do it. So with Campag you need a spline tool. Just makes it a bit more awkward because you can't use your posh tools. Just pull the cassette off. Done. Again, just pop this first cap off. Just going to remove the drive side end cap, clamp it in your soft jaws in the vise and just give it a whack upwards. That just comes straight off like that. And this freehold body should pull off now, like that. This has the Mavic, so this ratchet 360 system in here. They're okay when they wear, but I do tend to find these only last sort of 3,000 or 4,000 miles and they need replacing. Very, very fine teeth on them, they wear out. Even once they get slightly smoothed off, it doesn't work. We'll get them out and clean it, that's the seal. Just use a couple of magnets to pull this one out. It's a bit stiff on this one because it's been underwater. There we go. See some corrosion in there. On the non-drive side again, just leave this plastic cap off, comes off dead easy. There's a circlip in there again. So that's that one, and another washer. So now we should be able to drift this axle through this side. So I'm using a Hope hub support. Just put that there. Cup over there, and use a soft face mallet. And you should be able to drift this through then. There you go. Pretty easy that one. I'm just going to use a small punch to gently drift the rest of it through. It's not tight, it's just obviously a little bit of corrosion on there. There we go. It's the axle out so we can see some grime on there. We'll clean all that up and we'll get these bearings out. Yeah, it's pretty grim in there. Yeah, this will change. So just tap the edge of the bearing that you can see from the other side. Do it evenly and it just comes straight out. And on the drive side there's a very small clip here that holds this pad in. You need to get that out first, otherwise you can't get the bearing out. So just hook that out, easy. And the pad will come out with the bearing. Just use a punch again. This Enduro punch fits perfectly. Drift straight out. So I'm just going to fit the new bearings now. So first things first, some grease in here. Try not to get it all over the ratchet area, but just where the bearing's going to sit. Same on the other side. And just insert that through the drive side. Non-drive side bearing onto here. I'm going to use a part tool press to press all this in. And just wind it all in then. Once it stops, just stop because they are seated correctly then. Take all these off. Then we can just reassemble the rest of the bits and pieces. So this will drop in here. Put your clip back in. Just refit the seal. Replace it obviously if it's damaged, but this one's fine. Then we're going to put the pads in as well. The pad on there goes on the back of it. This is the one that was corroded. So we'll just add some grease. Just using a little bit of Shimano free hub grease. Just a very light coating on this. You don't need much at all. That's enough. Drop that into there. There are some splines it needs to line up with. That's it. That's that. The spring. And then we're going to service the freehill body itself. With the freehill body, it's a special tool. This one's by BSC. It just locates into these holes, so you can unscrew this cap and access the bearings. Into the soft jaws, I have tapped this home. Just a rubber mallet to make sure it's seated properly. So use a 27mm socket. This should unscrew just normally anti-clockwise, but just be really careful to keep these pins engaged. That's it, that's got it. It should just come out by hand at the end. That's that out. There's a very thin washer that we need to keep. Now I've got access to the bearings, so these will just tap through from the rear. Just use a punch to hook the side of the bearing that you can see from there. Turn it around every couple of taps. It's out. There you go. And the same on the other one now. So there is a sleeve still in here. It's been a bit awkward. That'll come out when I start tapping this bearing through. So these enduro punches I've got, they're fantastic. They're very expensive, unfortunately, but they do a brilliant job for this. It just sits perfectly in the bearing. And just tap that out as well. Just support it in the soft drawer again. There's the sleeve and the bearing. So now it's literally just an empty shell now. So two different bearings on this one. The smaller one came out at the bottom. Okay, so I've just cleaned that up and added some grease. Drop the first bearing in first, down to the bottom. Again, now you just press that in there. Drop that spacer back in. Again, a bit of grease in there. A good fit this one is. There you go. The second bearing sits in that space there. Again, just press that in. Not going to go very far on this one. Stopped. That's in now. So that's both bearings replaced. Just need to put these cap back in. Don't forget the washer that came out. Make sure that goes back in with it. So this goes back in this way. There's the washer. And just screw this back in. We have got grease on there now, so it should go in fairly easily, hopefully. I think you'd really struggle without this tool, to be honest. I'm not sure how you would get it in there. Back into the soft drawer. And we're going to wind this back in. Okay, that's pretty much in now. To make sure the washer's centered, which it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap this tool in, make sure it's located properly. And then we can give it a final tighten. Right, that's in. That was back up. And just tighten this up. It wasn't particularly tight when it came out, remember. That's right. So that's that bit done. Add the spacer back on that came off. That's the freehold body done, so we can put that back on the wheel now. This tyre's gone down already, so it needs some new sealant. So the freehold body just pushes on now. I don't think we've already greased it. Yeah. And then it's just a matter of fitting the end caps that we pulled off. Plenty of grease on here as well. Just adds a bit of a weather seal. That just pushes on. The other side, circlip. Washer first. Then you circle it. Just make sure that seats in its clip. And that's clipped back in there nicely. And the dust cover, again some grease in there just as a weather seal. And finally the end cap. And that's that wheel done. Bearings feel lovely now. Drop this cassette back on. Okay. Back on with the rotor. There you go, that's the wheel done. A few specialist tools really. You don't really want to be doing this with a sort of piece of wood and a nut and bolt sort of thread thing. So you do need fairly specialist tools to get this out successfully, and especially for the freehold body in there. So if you've got this far in the video, I guess you're enjoying it. So if you could do me a massive favour by hitting the subscribe button, that really does help the channel grow. And like I say, it's still pretty early days. We've only been going sort of 4 or 5 weeks at the moment, but subscribers are coming, view hours are going up, so somebody must be liking something. So yeah, hit that magic button please, it'd be fantastic. So I'm going to add some sealant to this because this has gone down in the space of the 20 minutes I've been doing those bearings, so obviously needs a bit of a top up. So just take your valve core out again that you've just put in. So I always use a syringe for sealant, and it's so much easier. I'm going to add about 50 millilitres to this wheel. And you just literally screw onto the valve, push it in, pull it back, otherwise you're going to get covered in it. Give it one push. Welcome to the mess of tubeless. If you've seen my video about TPU tubes and going from tubeless to TPU, have a look at that. It's proved quite a popular video and quite controversial. So have a look at that. Just refit your valve, dead easy this. and inflate. Put around about 70 in this, just for now. I don't think the customer are going to be using it for a while anyway. Always needs a good ride to let the sealant do its thing. There we go. That's the rear wheel service complete. I'm just going to top up the sealant on the front wheel, and we'll move on to the rest of the bike. Okay, so back on the bike, this is now sat overnight. Just shine a torch here. It looks really clean in here now, so we can refit this bottom bracket shell. So I'm just cleaning these surfaces with some isopropyl alcohol now, and again just cleaning the cups as well. So we're going to Loctite this one in. That seems to be the general consensus for ultra torque into carbon. So I'm just going to spray the Loctite activator into the cups. Just let that evaporate and add the adhesive to the cups while you're waiting. Just spread it around into a thin coating. I'm going to use the BSC bottom bracket press tool for this and press it all in at once. So I line up the holes where the clip goes in, top and bottom, and then just wind this in nice and easy. Fantastic tool this is. BSC makes some really nice tools. That cracking is a normal sound for a carbon frame, don't worry. And that's in. And that's those cups fitted. There's many schools of thought for grease, no grease, dry, not dry, Loctite, not Loctite. My personal preference for a carbon frame with no inserts is to Loctite it in. Okay, so they're in now, so now we can refit the cranks. What we're going to do first though is clean this frame up because it's pretty dirty. The Zep is a really good cleaner, it gets rid of pretty much everything really, to be honest. That's looking a bit cleaner. So I'm going to get some polish. Just go over these bits what you can still get to before you put the cranks and the wheel back in. And Campag parts are very, very nice, but oh my god, they're so expensive. I had a customer with a Super Record carbon fibre that had worn through here. Nearly £200 for a Derailleur. Insane. The part was available from Italy, I think, as a spare cage, but it was pretty much the same price to buy a new Derailleur, so we just swapped it over. It worked well, and it looked fantastic. Still prefer Shimano. Look at that. Nice. The rear's nice and clean. Beautiful Derailleur, all carbon. I think there's ever been crashed, there's no more telltale marks on the bodies. Yeah, beautiful. I do like this bike, as you might have guessed. I'm going to take these bottle cages off so we can polish behind these as well. Use this little palm ratchet to get these out. Sometimes access is a bit restricted. Nice and clean now, so I'm just going to go over it with the showroom protect and polish. Really nice stuff this. I'm sure it's furniture polish in disguise, but it does a great job. There you go, pretty clean to be fair. I'm going to refit this plate. I've put a drop of grease on these threads. They're going into riv nuts and they do tend to seize. So this is for a Di2, I believe. So I'm just going to refit the crank. Plenty of grease on this bearing here. Just put the clip in loosely, don't put it through the holes. But just get it in position so we can just clip it back in when we're on. Plenty of grease. Put the chain over there, and hopefully this goes in a bit easier than it came out. Yeah. It will pull itself through when we put the other side in, but that's pretty much in. So with the left hand side, don't forget the wavy washer. Just get this bolt threaded, don't tighten it yet. And then set the cranks obviously to the opposite. And it will sort itself out when it gets there. Tighten this to 42 Newton meters. There you go. Where's the axle? Okay, just drop the back wheel back in now. Pull the derailleur back. Be careful not to scratch the frame. And through axle back through. So there was a problem with this dropout being very, very loose when the customer brought it in. I did tighten that up. Did a little short video on there, so I'll put a link into that video there. Put it in tight. Okay, so that's the chain back on. Let's just get this into gear properly. Beautiful. I'm all happy down there. Shift's so nice. Could convert me to Campag this bike. Very nice. Need to tweak that high screw. So that's the ID 360 hub, a fresh service. Sounding beautiful. Very nice. Just going to put these clips back in. There you go. On the bottom. That's them in. Okay. Put the bottle cage is back on now. You don't very often get excited by bottle cages. These look really good, being colour matched to the frame. Really nice. Just a little bit of grease on these bolts again. Put those on. Just going to sort this rear derailleur out. It's not very happy down here. The B tension, you can tell it's a B tension. If you pull this back ever so slightly, now it's gone. So we'll just tweak that in. That up. Maybe a smidge more. Nicer. Just going to run through these gears now. Just clean the chain so it's still in spec. Perfect. Let's check the fronts now. Just tweak the limit screws ever so slightly. It was just over shifting by sort of 0.5 millimeter, so I screwed this high screw in to the stop. Inside again, it was just over traveling ever so slightly, so I've given that sort of 0.5 millimeter this way just to control that. That's shifting lovely now. Down there, there's your trim. Back up there, and that's me pushing the lever right over now. It's not going to push that over. Trim on that one. Trim down there, and downshift. That's the lowest trim. Perfect. I'm going to check these brake pads now. I'm going to pull this retaining clip off the back. Unscrew this 2.5. Unscrew this 2.5 millimeter bolt. These Campagnolo pads are crazy expensive, like anything else. Sort of £40–45 a set, which is bonkers compared to anything else I've seen. There is wear indicators on these, so we'll check that. Just using a brush here just to clean the debris off. You can still see the wear indicator, this triangular, so once that disappears, it's time for new pads. I'll advise the customers to get a bit on the low side, but I think they've got a bit of life left in them yet, so we'll just clean these up and put them back. Just drop the wheel out quickly just to run this brush through here. It's pretty clean, to be fair. I've just worked out how to lock video focus on my phone, so hopefully that's going to be an improvement going forwards. Drop these pads back in. There's a drop of Loctite on this bolt, so I'll just replace that. These don't seize like Shimano. That's nice. Good. Go in with a pin and then back in with a wheel. Back in. Probably should have done that first before we put the wheel back in, but never mind. Doesn't take very long. Nice. So I'm just going to repeat that with the front wheel, and then we should be about there. And refit the front wheel. I've just added some grease to this through axle. It was a bit on the dry side. You don't want these seizing. Almost done now, so just final torque checks on the 5 Newton meters. Yep. Good on the bars. That's this one pretty much wrapped up then, really. Fortunately, the damage wasn't too serious. It's very high quality sealed bearings on this bike, so they survived A couple of things I've done off camera. I've inspected the pedals, these Derailleur pedals, no issues there at all. I am going to speak to the customer regarding these rear pads. They are a little bit low, but I think realistically they'll probably get another 6 to 8 months out of those. I'm also going to speak to them regarding the chain, because it's sort of 0.7, it's borderline. But the thing is, the customer supplied me with a new set of wheels as well with a brand new cassette, so just to be on the safe side, I think we'll change the chain over. And if I do that, I'll obviously run this old cassette through the ultrasonic cleaner. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's a beautiful bike, and back to its full health now. So I'm ready for a summer of many miles, hopefully. So thanks for tuning in. I'll say hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel. Thanks.